for you.
Hello?
Hello, Judge Ed, this is Archie. Come over right away. It's a matter of life or death.
Oh, relax, Archie.
Attention, all true believers. Marvel Comics is on the air.
A friend of the unfortunate, enemy of criminals. In reality, Dan Garrett, a rookie patrolman, loved by everyone but suspected by none of being the Blue Beetle.
Boys and girls, your attention, please. Presenting a new exciting radio program featuring the thrilling adventures of an amazing and incredible personality. Faster than an airplane, more powerful than a locomotive, impervious to bullets.
Up in the sky, look!
It's a bird, it's a plane, it's Superman!
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Everybody, and welcome. Do you like our new lead-in? Kyle worked so hard on it. You got a sourpuss look on your face.
There was a fade there I didn't recognize, and it's making me nervous.
It was a fade?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Like someone's good haircut?
No.
I don't.
Like, yeah, something was incorrect, but I don't know that it was. Just me, maybe paying more attention to it than I ever have in the show we've done. Say what?
It's Kyle Marine.
Yeah, kind of. New chin. Who dis?
Who dis? It does. It is a little bit too much to have no hat and no chin hair.
Nah, well, tell that to my dermatologist.
There you go. Yeah. It looks cool, right?
It's different for sure. And it sort of suits me. And I have been wearing hats again, but like I'm starting to get the same problem that I had before with wearing the hats again, which is where I get, I'm going through puberty again as a 40-year-old. So
yeah. No one ever tells you that you get the pimples again.
It's true. So because that had so much to do with comics.
Yeah.
I suppose that's why I started the new opener with Archie. But
I actually had a discussion this morning that was very sweet. It was an older gentleman that started to join our breakfast group of all retired people. I don't know why I'm in it. I have a little bit of gray hair, but that's it. That he wanted to know, he found out on a comic book store and he was like, who's more popular? Is it Superman or Captain Marvel? And I had to explain to him that there's more than one Captain Marvel, and Captain Marvel from DC is not called Captain Marvel anymore. It's called Shazam. And he was like, I know. He says Shazam. I'm like, I know, but no, he's called Shazam now.
Shazam.
Shazam. I said Shazam enough times today. I should have actually turned into Shazam.
It's true. So I had kind of a big week. I read 10 books.
Yeah, you outpaced me for sure.
Yeah.
But I picked some thick ones out, so.
Well, that was kind of the deal with two of mine were kind of thick boys. So I really kind of only read parts of them and skimmed parts of them.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it was a good week for comics. And so I'm happy. If you're here, because I can see that you're here. Like, I have access to information. Say hi. Don't just sit there and like not say anything. Because then it's like just Jen and I talking to each other. And we'll wind up talking about, the relative merits of one credit card processor over another. Instead of talking about comics. So if you say, hey, we're here, let's talk about comics, then we'll talk about comics. I'm just saying.
And we like y'all a lot.
Mm-hmm. So, Kenneth said, hey. Nobody else would have said, hey.
Preston said something. He was disparaging your naked chin.
I don't see that.
Really? He
No.
says. There you go.
That's weird. Okay. Well, in that case,
maybe you're having the glitch.
clearly, that might be what the unexperienced fade was. So let's talk about comics then.
Yeah. Ooh,
Okay.
that cover. Wow.
Yeah, no, look, David Mack, right, on all of these Neil Gaiman adaptations has been crushing it. We're getting to the point where Fat Charlie and Spider are going to come to a feud, because that's what they do. Eventually, this is the part in the story where Fat Charlie's life that he thinks he kind of had on the rails starts to go off the rails because Spider, and where Spider starts to, like, I don't know, take on a bigger role in Fat Charlie's life, even though Fat Charlie doesn't know it. And the whole mischief Spider God thing really starts to come to fruition in a big way here. So it's starting in earnest, really, in the last issue. But in this issue, it really kind of takes on a whole new level of mischief, I guess, is the short answer. To the point where it's like, okay, Spider is going to mess up Fat Charlie's wedding, like, which we all know happens in the whole, like, actual story of the thing, but now we get it in the comic book adaptation of the thing. So
okay. Batman Long Halloween. This is like, if you are familiar with the original Long Halloween, it like rolls itself out over many months. And the original bad guy is, was it Calendar Man? Yes? Pretty sure.
it's been so long since I read Long Halloween.
I think it's Calendar Man.
Sounds right.
I think that's the why. I think it's because every month has its own badness. So this is kind of continuing on in that same vein where kidnapping has occurred, and the Commissioner Gordon's son has disappeared as part of a kidnapping. They're not really sure what happened. So there's a lot of like behind the scenes things, like what is the end game for what's going on. I love that they've used a Tim Sale art on the front here. It's like rest his soul. You get to still enjoy his art a lot. So if you like the original series of Long Halloween, this one deals with October, November. So you're keeping it in the months you're actually in, which is very helpful. It feels like it could be happening in real time.
Okay. I had a problem with this book for most of this book. And so I have to say, dear Alien Books / Valiant, if you're going to reprint content that was previously released, would you please tell those of us who are slightly dense or completely dense that it is reprinted content? Thank you. There are 3 stories in this book. The first 2, I fervently believe, are old. Whether it's content that previously hadn't been released or it's repackages of old content or what, I don't know. But it was like the writing was fine, but the art style was very like 1987 and we're in a hurry. You could even tell now with like digital techniques that even the stuff that's rushed is cleaner than this stuff was. Some of it literally looked like it was drawn with like a Bic or a Pilot G2 on white paper and then scanned in. And then they threw some red on it in those early stories, which was really frustrating because it really turned me off. But then I get to the 3rd story. And I know the 3rd story is new content because I know the writer and he is my age. So he would not have been writing Bloodshot back in the era when all the other things were published, right? It's a friend of Jen and I's, Timmy, wrote the 3rd story, and the 3rd story redeemed the entire book. The third story was interesting, was new, was exciting. The art was great. Timmy is a relatively, I would say, new writer on the scene.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, he's got some skills or he wouldn't be doing this, but you could see where, like, the first story is a Kevin Van Hook story. You could see where Kevin, even when he wrote that, was more experienced than Timmy is now, just in some of the ways he tells story. But Timmy was telling a very interesting concept that I think for Bloodshot is a very interesting direction to perhaps go. So big excited for that. But like I said, the first two stories were like, I felt like I had to fight through them to get to the third story. And then when I got to the third story, I was absolutely hooked. So that's my take on this. I can't even give you plot points because they're so short, right?
Right.
That it would spoil the whole like 8-page story. So just know that for me, this book was all the third part of the anthology.
And I think I just saw, so it's Timmy Heeg you guys should be watching for. He's done a couple little short stories in some Archie books and then now for Alien books. And I think he just announced he signed a contract to write 4 stories. So
he just signed a deal to do a 4-issue miniseries.
Yeah. It's a big deal.
Yeah. I'm very excited for him. And again, I think he's got a lot of potential for kind of just starting out. And because he's a retailer, he knows what sells. So he can kind of hit the nail on the head there. So
I cannot express how much I love Ultimate X-Men. Although I will be the first to admit that, like, okay, although I can tell you that the characters now have started to get their like superhero names. I cannot remember their actual names to save my life because they're from Japan and they have Japanese names, which I'm gonna have to really focus in on and try to remember at some point. There is a group of, I guess they're trying to present it as a cult called Children of the Atom, which one of their families, so these are all like high schoolers, and one of their families is part of this cult called Children of the Atom, which is secret, not secret. And the people, obviously they're the cult, don't know they're in a bad cult, but it's becoming clear in this issue that it's not good. And if you aren't aware, the high school that these kids go to is known really as, I think they call it Murder High School, which is weird because it's known for, it's had multiple suicides that have occurred there, including one of the coaches. And so this one focuses in on one of the young ones who is also doing like a video show, kind of like we're doing now, and goes to the campus to start trying to tell those stories. There's some wicked cool powers that are shown in this. So just know that this does deal in suicidal themes. So just be aware that you're getting into that. Although it's as peachy sweet as it can get, because Peach, it's hard to get real sad when you're looking at this kind of art. So really great. If you haven't tried it out, you're reading maybe Ultimate Spider-Man, but you never tried the X-Men one because you're over X-Men. This one hasn't even really touched on anything that's traditional X-Men. And this one's got, it always has at the very end really cool stuff. Like she'll put a bunch of Japanese terms and to kind of define them for you. And in this one, she draws a bunch of pages and puts them in her language and then gives you interpretation, which I just think it's really cool to get to see another culture and learn about it. Really, I think it's awesome.
Well, but one of them is still Cyclops, so thumbs down.
Cyclops.
Then who's the kid shooting the lasers out of their eyes?
Just one eye. And they're not
Cyclops.
Okay.
Okay. The Carlisle School for Kings. I don't know who any of these creators are, which is kind of fun for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is Hunger Games if it was somehow more stabby. Basically the story is that you have a kingdom that's ruled by this kind of malevolent ruler. Not really a great guy. And you're kind of made to understand that at the very beginning of the book. But the thing about being king is that every so often there is a cycle, a king's cycle, where children of different families and different upbringings and backgrounds who are deemed worthy to be king are brought together to the Carlisle School for Kings, where they are made to Hunger Games themselves. And the winner becomes king.
Oh.
Right. Except that like this school is even like somewhat harsher than the Hunger Games, because like if during conflict you do something, it's totally cool. But then there's like classes on like military strategy and weapon strategy and things like that, where you're not allowed to fight. You're not allowed to do any of the things they've brought you there to do. And if like you kill somebody not during conflict, you get killed. If you punch somebody during non-conflict, you get punched. So it's this really interesting kind of thing. And our main character has a grudge against the king and the king's family. And is trying to, maybe exercise that grudge through this process. So it's an interesting way to kind of break it down, right? I really enjoyed this book. I don't generally go for the sword and sorcery kind of stuff, and this doesn't feel like that. This feels a lot more like there can be only one, in terms of its vibe. So I was down for it. And the art is killer. It's very detailed, but it still has enough cartooniness to it to not make it feel like it's super heavy. So I liked it.
Okay, I will tell you that there are multiple stories in this book. I could not read all of them because it is a really thick thing. It's cool because this is Jeb turning over the reins to the next creative team. And it is really funny because directly after the very first story here, which is heartbreakingly awesome, he puts like a one splash page, which has that, what's the Spider-Man version that's like, he's based off of a dog. Oh, I forgot that guy's name. He's like completely feral.
We're not talking about Spider-Hound, right?
No. I'm going to call him Glidblab just for, for lack of a name. It's something like that. But because Jeb puts in there that you'll see more of him, or he's coming up soon. He says, well, now the next guy has to use him. It's kind of a tag, you're it kind of a deal. But the first story is super sweet. It's kind of more the norm, where like you see Pete's hanging out with Aunt May. Pete realizes that there's something going on in the city and has to run away. He runs away. Then you have to see Aunt May being like, well, this is such a weird thing. He's always leaving. And then, we see Spider-Man. He always gets, Pete always gets in danger. He's always, I don't know why he would go and do that if he doesn't put himself in danger all the time. And you think, oh no, the Jinx is going to be apt. She's going to figure this out because she's not a dummy. And I can't believe she hasn't figured it out before now. But what it really turns into is a very sweet, her confronting him and saying, I understand what you're doing, that you can't stand by and know something is going wrong and not do something about it. In this case, it's to tell Spider-Man. She doesn't say, I know that you're Spider-Man, and that's not the implication. The implication is that she knows he's a good person and just couldn't live with himself if he didn't. We lost Kyle, yeah. If he didn't say something. It's just a really, when you get to it, you'll feel all the emotional hit about it. It is also fun in this issue there's a fight with Sandman, and Pete kind of verifies it's like it doesn't matter really what we do. He's really immortal. It's just how long can we keep his sandy atoms away from each other, which is cool confirmation. You can't kill him.
I'm having a thought about how to defeat Sandman, but that's for another day. I'm going to call Zeb Wells. Anyway, Kill All Immortals, number 4. We finally get around to the killing the immortals, kind of. Or not. Or maybe. Look, I don't know if they could be killed or not. But Freya seems to think she knows how. And then, because that's how this book goes, she gets totally caught. And that's where this book takes yet another left turn. I'm beginning to wonder how many lefts this book can take before it makes a circle on itself. And it hasn't yet. Because we come to find out that someone that has been sort of a leading plot point in this book is actually a problem. And that the people we thought were the bad guys were not wrong. And what happens when the bad guys aren't wrong in a comic book? Like, I don't know how to deal with that, right? The bad guys are supposed to be wrong. The good guys are supposed to be right. And that's comic books. Not in this book, because Zach Kaplan likes to mess with my brain.
Yeah.
So we come to find out that maybe it's not so cut and dry with the whole family and their whole immortality deal, and that maybe they did something to get that immortality that they might not oughta. And that they are potentially more evil than you think, but then even the good person in this book, Freya, the person who we believe to be the good person, is a beneficiary of the evil, and then the other good person is actually evil. And look, it starts to get all twisty-turny, and you don't know who to trust. And the one thing you can always trust is in this book is a bullet. And there are a lot of them in this book.
But he has a sword.
Huh?
But he has a sword.
Right, but there is also much shooting. So that's always fun. So I'm really liking this book in that it, you know, I've said this before. I think I've said on this show, and I know Jen's heard me say it. Not a lot of people are coming up with concepts in comics that I haven't read before, or that I haven't at least somehow interacted with before. This seems to be totally new. Now, when we get to the end and I'm like, oh, it was just this, I'll be disappointed at the end. But if not, then I'll be really excited, because this truly feels like a unique concept for a book, and I'm really enjoying that about it.
That's right, Jay. Pew pews and long stabbies make for good books.
Well, and remember that Freya is a pretty lady. So if you're going based on the 3 things you need to have a successful comic book: pretty lady, big stabby, lots of pew pews. Okay, Rob Liefeld, you win. If we get to a point where this becomes about pockets, we're gonna have a whole other set of
cute
koalas.
Is that how it works for curse words? Cute koalas.
Yeah.
Oh Lord. Okay, so I'm just gonna say it now. If G. Willow Wilson does not win an Eisner for this book, I don't know what I'm doing in this industry at all. At all. This is one that I think a lot of people might pass over, and they should not. Yes.
If anyone knows G. Willow Wilson and would like to put me in contact with G. Willow Wilson so that they can come on the experience and talk to Jen King about being G. Willow Wilson, would you please let me know?
That's right.
Thank you.
Need it. Okay. So all the art inside is the same gorgeous art that's here on the cover. The cover is not a lie. So this book is essentially Poison Ivy getting pulled into the woods along with where she meets up with Swamp Thing, because they are both hearing this cry, this woman's cry. And there have been human people, fully human people, disappearing into the woods. They find blood, but not the people at all. And there is long discussions really coolly between Swamp Thing and Poison Ivy about that she believes that she's fully in the green, as they say. And Swamp Thing says, absolutely not. He's like, despite the fact that you have tried to kill all of humanity many multiples of time, you have decided not to. And in fact, are in love with a human. So no one's talking about G. Willow Wilson's The Hunger and the Dust. They should be. They should be. So there is a mystery that gets unfolded throughout this book, which has a big, it's like one of those things, the meaning behind the meaning, behind the meaning, behind the meaning. It is just so gorgeous. And it says that it's a #1, but it ends like it's a finished book. So they could continue on. They have something that appears on the last page that means it could continue on. But I kind of like it as a one shot. But the feral trees is real. There are actual feral trees. And neither one of them can control them. So that'll tell you how messed up everything is.
This is one I had to skim. Because this is like 68 pages. Here's the thing about Dwellings, and I say this every time we read Dwellings. It is this really sort of disparate book. You have incredibly cartoony, like Hanna-Barbera animation art style. And then, hey, Cullen Bunn, do you want to be uncomfortable? Writing.
Yep.
Like, the amount of like murder and body horror and like weird sort of like, are we supposed to believe that this is a sexual encounter that turns into draining someone's blood or bodily fluids for scientific research? Like, that is put against what looks like a children's cartoon show just makes my brain twitch. And not in a bad way, just in a way that I'm uncomfortable with, right? You have a couple of little plot story through lines through this book that all just end in like, it's Halloween, spooky crap happens. But one of them that I really enjoyed, the first story, is the story of one of the characters is visiting Edgar Allan Poe's grave in Baltimore and seeing as how like I have a really, really specific relationship with that place and that thing. Being able to see it depicted in art was cool. And the accuracy with which they did it was super cool. To the point where like the background buildings are actually pretty close to being accurate for the background buildings.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like I really appreciated that. But then it just turned into like that part of the story turned into, it's not a phase, Mom. We're actually vampires. Well, it turns out they actually are freaking vampires, and that's a whole thing. So, it feels like you're dealing with goth teenagers that are, okay. You are actually the undead. Okay. I need to readjust my feelings here. Harvey Comics meets EC might not even be a good enough comparison. It's Harvey Comics meets like the old Eerie magazines or, some of that pulp stuff where they just didn't pull any punches at all. I really enjoyed it, but I didn't get to read all of it just because it was so long. So I only read the first, maybe third. And like I said, it's just sort of Treehouse of Horrors feeling where it's a bunch of little through lines that are all tied together, but not one real concise plot. So super fun little Halloween book.
Oh my gosh. Just when I think that I cannot fall in love with this book anymore, man, daggum. Jeff, I swear. Okay. So this one is another emotional hit. I love emotional hits. I don't know if you guys are this way about comic books, but the more emotional, the better. I don't care if it makes me scared or want to cry or feel in love or whatever. I'm totally about it. So this book starts out with a bunch of pages of like almost no dialogue, just really of Mr. Pure there just getting ready to start his day, getting into a taxi, despite the fact he's wearing, period piece outfit. Like, he never changes. Simon does not change any of the clothes that he wears. Doesn't matter what era he's in. So he's immortal, in case you guys didn't know. He gained his immortality through a weird, like Illuminati style, like voodoo-y thing where it was supposed to happen to somebody else, which I don't want to spoil who somebody else it was supposed to happen to, in case you want to start the series from the beginning. But it's another historical figure that you might recognize. But it didn't. It came onto him, and he's kind of he's not the person you would give him immortality. He's a drunk and not a great soldier. So at some point during the series, he actually met young Einstein. And he's been an important character for the last 2 or 3 issues. This one has him see Einstein much later in life. So you can tell there's been a long period between. And they do some reminiscing that they haven't really seen each other in a while. So despite the fact that they've been through heck with each other, it's clear they didn't really keep in touch. So I will let you guys enjoy the book, the rest of it, because I don't want to spoil the loveliness that is those interactions. But I will just say and bring you a hanky. Go Gary.
JD is blowing my phone up because he's trying to do work for the experience. I'm like, bro, I'm on the air. And so he's like, hi, everybody.
Hi, JD.
Anyhow, he needs a login that I can't get him from here. Anyway, Sesame Street Cookie Monster's dinner party. Look, if Cookie Monster invite you to a dinner party, you go. Because he's going to serve one thing, and you're not going to be angry afterwards. This is also an excuse for me to go, cookies. Anyway, Cookie Monster is throwing a dinner party, and everybody is coming, and Cookie Monster is so worried. Like, if you've ever thrown a dinner party, like, especially your first dinner party, like, you worry about all the details and, like, having the right place setting and all that. Cookie Monster is no different. Except that Cookie Monster forgot something, which is well, you'll see. And so this is about how friends help each other out, and the thing that makes a good party is not the details of the party, it's the people at the party. They're doing a really good job on these Sesame Street books of, one, having them be concepts that young kids can understand. Right? That we just had my nephew's birthday party, and he had a lot of fun, not because of the details or how many Optimus Prime balloons there were, but because a bunch of his little friends got to come and they got to hit each other with Optimus Prime balloons. Like, he got to have fun with his buddies. So, like, that's kind of, it's a concept that kids can understand, but then putting it in a way that when adults read this book, they can be spoken to as well. Because definitely little kids aren't throwing dinner parties. Preston, this is the 3rd Sesame Street review I've done.
I know. Come on. Don't you know us at all?
Don't you know, like, bro, I'm getting a Oscar the Grouch tattoo. Like, this is Sesame Street is my core. I am at my core a Muppet. Hell, I've spent thousands of dollars with just Jen on Muppets. Anyway, but the deal is that there's something for grown-ups too. Like reminders of things that we knew as kids. And reminders of things that we should remember as adults. So I really am enjoying these books. And now I'm going to go get a... we'll see what puppet I grab. But I'm going to go grab a Sesame Street puppet. I'll be back.
What's everyone's favorite Sesame Street, or not Sesame Street, a Muppet character? I like Snuffleupagus, because when I grew up, no one could see Snuffleupagus but me. Only me. No one else could see him. Couldn't understand why no one else could see Snuffleupagus. Pharaoh! Oh, this is the opposite of warm and fuzzy. So, just to catch you guys up, there is a giant rabies epidemic that has taken over. It affects humans and animals. This book focuses in on a group of cats. Lord is the main cat. Lord is a Siamese cat. But this one starts at
Scram.
I love him. He's really cute. Only Oscar can make unibrow work. Yep.
This is from the 70s, probably.
Sam the Eagle. Yes.
Sam the Eagle's a Muppet, not on Sesame Street. But I will give it to you.
Muppet work. I just said Muppets. I told them they could use it.
Well, if I was going to go Muppets, I'd have grabbed my Kermit the Frog that's right over here. I have a full-size Kermit the Frog.
All right. So in this one specifically, you don't see Lord at all. It's a group of kittens. They get in trouble by leaving the safety of their barn without that parent, which is funny because they say to each other, like, we're not allowed to leave without supervision. And like, well, I'm going to supervise you two and you can supervise me. So see, we're supervised. It sounds like kid logic, right? It's perfect. But once they make it out there, they do run into these rabid rats, which cause great craziness. No, settle down. And it was so funny to Tony Fleece and Tom Rodriguez were at our store 3 weeks ago, I think, two or 3 weeks ago. And it was cool to see people come in and have discussions with them about how dare they, harm their favorite pretend cartoon kitty that they made up. So they were like having real existential crisis when they were discussing it with them. And it's cool to see people like really buy into a cartoony world, however sweet it might be and terrifying. Trying to say no flaw in the logic. Oh, perfect. I see. I see what you're saying. So anyway, yes, this is a good series. You should totally go back and pick it up and read it all.
Speaking of Tony Fleece,
Mm-hmm.
y'all, this book is dark. Steamboat Willie is a real monster. Or I guess legally not Steamboat Willie is a real monster.
Yep.
Like, that is the plot of this book. I was not prepared. I was not prepared for the darkness that is this issue. And the cliffhanger that it leaves you on. You start to find out a little bit more about the lore of the land, the lore of the world where this existed, and how the tunes feel versus the people and why they feel the way they feel. And the end result is that it made me feel things. It made me feel feelings. And I did not want to feel feelings. I don't know if it's that, Preston, so much as it is that that's public domain now. That they can use it without getting in trouble. Like I said, you didn't really find out anything about our main characters. You just issue 6 and we're world building. And it was good. It felt like the right time to sort of explain the world, because without that, the next issue would be full of misunderstanding. So it felt like the right time to do it, and it really kind of was smooth. So I really enjoyed this issue, even though it was darker than I wanted it to be. It was less zany than I have come to expect from this book. It was a lot more like, imagine Vincent Price's voice coming out of Legally Not Steamboat Willie's body kind of thing. Or it's James Earl Jones or Keith Davidson or one of those guys. Keith Davidson's a different guy.
Yes.
Keith David. Shout out Keith Davidson over at Mad Cave. We're going to get to your books in a minute. But Keith David, like that kind of dark, sort of low voice, or Vincent Price's creepy voice. Read it with that in your head and you're going to enjoy it.
All right. I didn't want to like this book. but dadgummit, it's really good. So it's really well written and well drawn. The art style does make you feel like you went back to that time period that Sectaurs came out. This one deals with the fact that okay, so just so you understand Sectaurs, there is 2 different warring factions of insectile humanish people. One's kind of like from the dark realm and one's from the light realm. They have special names for them, but I can't remember what the realms are called. And they brokered peace a long time ago, and it's really awesome. So this guy on the front cover, who's on the insect, his father is the one that brokered the peace, but he got really sick. And so in this issue, he's kind of like in a coma. And the son is trying to get himself ready to take over, despite the fact that he really expected it to be a long time. Like his dad is young and should be still on the throne. But also, if he doesn't get his crap together, then the bad guys might decide it's a good time to, try to take everything over. He has not bonded with his insect counterpart yet, because I guess always at a certain age they completely bond with a cool, I forget what they're called. We'll call them bugs. It feels a lot like, you remember in Avatar where they eventually like bond to their whatever horse creature? It's like that. But it's kind of like a deep thing, whereas the point is that he can't bond with his because he's always looking away to what the future holds and not focusing on what's going on right now. So it's actually really good. There were some of them that I didn't really like from the Nacelle-verse line, just because I just didn't get into it, but I might actually continue to read this one.
Okay. Cullen, I like to sleep at night, and when you write books like this, I don't. I almost had Jay make this my favorite book of the week. Do you remember another book that came out from a company called Aftershock called Jimmy's Bastards? Where there were a bunch of kids who hated their dad.
Mm-hmm.
Now imagine they didn't actually know who their dad was, and they get called, "Your dad died, funeral's Friday." And they show up only to find out that their dad was the worst kind of person. And by the worst kind of person, I mean, look at the bottom third of the cover. The kind of person who would make dealings with that kind of thing. The worst kind of person. And that's why I like the title, The Hexiles. Even though when I sent it to Jay, it got autocorrected as Helixes. The Hexiles, these are kids who find themselves without an island, as it were, battling against forces beyond their ken. And while these kids think that they can handle it separately, I don't think they can. Also, like, if you think of the creepiest Doctor Who bad guys, turn them up to about 37. Like, one dude just literally rips the back of his head open and has tentacles for heads. Like, wildness. So just know that this book is not for the wanting to sleep at night or faint of heart, but also for anybody who has kind of a twisted relationship with their father. Maybe it's for you. Maybe you'll relate. Especially if your dad made a deal with a bunch of demons to become powerful in the underworld. I don't know. But it is, yeah, this is a story about parental trauma unlike any I've ever read.
Okay. Here's a heads up. I had a really wonderful hour-long interview with Becky Cloonan, who did the second story in this book. She's fresh off of another distillery title, Somna, which was very, very fiery.
Spicy.
This is the spiciest book. I don't think there's any more spicy book out there. Makes Mirka and Dolfo run for their money. So I will say that the story in this that she writes is not spicy, but this is an anthology book. It's a one-shot. But what she told me was that the story that she writes in here does have ties to her next series through Distillery. She couldn't say how it was tied. She says it's very loosely tied because she couldn't get too much because the story itself is like you could ruin it real easily. Can't make any deals with the devil since the bank owns you. So her story is actually about grave robbers, a man and a woman who open up a grave. He takes the jewelry, and she is tempted beyond her ability to say no to steal the coin from the corpse's mouth, which will deny them what they need to get over the river Styx and, get out of this body. And there is a big twist. Yeah, we got 5 people away. Can you guys help us get to our 3K subs so we can give you guys a new show? We really, really want to do it.
But can we do that over the next 2 days? Because Kyle needs time to get it ready.
No, do it right now.
Because I do not want to be up all night getting this ready.
Make Kyle not sleep.
Yeah, let's do that. By the way, Preston, I owe my soul to the company Stone.
What's that from?
That is Tennessee Ernie Ford 16 Tons, also made famous in the musical Something Plaid or Forever Plaid.
Awesome.
So,
Bigby's the best.
Boom, 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 boom.
By the way, this has got a cool spot varnish on the cover and a bunch of other stories. And the art for every consecutive story will make you think the art can't get better or cooler or more nostalgic. And it's a lie. Every time you turn the page, you think to yourself, my Lord.
Dear Mark London, what? I do not know what hath happened. This book, I have one clear, concise thought. There is a werewolf. Everything else is confusing as heck. There's like a painting that's possessed by something that causes people to either sacrifice their wives and children or kill themselves or something. And then there's this wife and child who got away from the guy and because he was shot by the cop. And then there's like she's talking to somebody who may or may not be this guy on the cover, who is also her dad and a werewolf hunter. But maybe he's not. Maybe that's just another person we haven't met yet. And then there's this guy who's like a werewolf hunter that's a time traveler that's like, he can't find, like, if he gets stuck in one time, now he's a man out of time. It's like Time Cop meets werewolves meets like, don't look at that painting. I don't know what's happening and I'm very confused, but it's super fun.
All right, I got something for you guys. This is an offer from me. This is an unclaimed prize from Batman Day. I will give this away to one of you guys that are watching if we can get those 5 people, because I know you guys will be making the push. This is a 1 in 50 art germ cover.
Okay. So back to Hour of the Wolf, right?
Yeah.
So all I know is we have 3 separate threads that are all getting pulled to one place. And at the end of the book, we seem to see that place. But that place is far more disturbing than you thought that place was. And I don't know what to do. I really don't. I'm going to have to read at least number 2. But it was each story in and of itself was interesting and creepy. Except for the whole werewolf hunting part, which was like the most inane, innocuous, like, okay, I caught you. Kill me. No, I'm good. Thanks. And then he leaves. Like, really? Okay. And then more stuff happens. So I'm really interested to see number 2. It is on the Mad Cave server, so I could like go read it tonight, but I didn't want to read it and then like know what was going to happen before. So anyway, this was super interesting and crazy, but maybe wait for number 2 before you read number 1. Okay. What happens when you've been exiled from your crime family and then you kill a bunch of people from another crime family, and then doing that runs you afoul of a third crime family? And like, oh, by the way, it's Yom Kippur. So like the one crime family that you're actually a part of that actually really hates you right now because you've not done what they want you to do, can't do anything. And the other crime family totally can, but they can't venture into your crime family's territory. Oh, and by the way, the Germans are just over here Germaning in World War II. Like, you find yourself in some really unpredictable situations, and that's where we find our characters in this book. Caught between a rock and a high holiday. Which is kind of a funny way to put it. I will say this. If you're reading this book, just keep reading it. There are good gunfights. There's good plotting. There's good Yiddish. But at the end, there's this proverb that I've known my whole life and didn't know I knew, which is on the eve of Yom Kippur, even thieves are kosher. Like even thieves are saints. So like you kind of understand the situation these guys find themselves in and how they're kind of up against it, but also not up against it. They've got 25 hours to figure it out. And in 25 hours, when you're desperate, you can do a lot of stuff. Just ask the A-Team or Macaulay Culkin from any of those Home Alone movies. So we'll see what happens.
It's really weird that it doesn't pop it up. Okay.
Doesn't pop what up?
Well, I commented, and it doesn't show up in the comments. Maybe I comment.
We'll see. Okay, well, guys, that's all the books for this week. There are other great books out at your local comic shop. Head in there and check them out. If you don't know where there's a local comic shop nearby to you, you can find one at comicshoplocator.com. Yeah, you guys remember when we all were clamoring for that and paying like $300 for that book?
By the way, it's already pre-sold out. Not at our store, but like at distribution, it's gone.
Yep. So anyhow, find a local comic shop nearby to you by going to comicshoplocator.com and typing in the numbers of the place where you are, and it will tell you where there are comic shops nearby to you. Give those comic shops a call and just be like, hey, I saw these are your hours. Is that correct? I would like to come in. I would like to do some shopping. And then go there and spend like $5. That's all you got to do. Buy a couple of books, help the store out. I saw another shop that's been around. There are 3 locations, been around for 20 years. They're struggling to make their bills this month. So, like, just know that there's a whole bunch of problems. That comic shops could really use your help right now. And just going to them really could change their day. And we will be back next week. Jay will be here reading books. I will be pressing buttons. And Jen will be reading books. And, all of those things. Stay tuned in the meantime, though. We have a bunch of killer shows for you coming up. Mint Hunter is back. James from Mint Hunter is here tonight. He will have a great show. And then following that at 10 o'clock Eastern is Honest Henry from Chicago. If you're not going to either of those places, which why wouldn't you go to those places? Head over to CBSN and watch Miss Jen sell books. Yeah. We're still 5 away. Watch Miss Jen sell tomorrow's books today. Then tomorrow, Rex will be here from Comic Collectibles. He will be here, as will Joe from 360. Thursday, we've got the Dan Wickline show, and Miss Jen will be back with Minute to Skim, or with What's in the Box. She's got a whole new collection that she's going to have for What's in the Box, stuff that we've never seen before. Then the Geek Chat is back after 2 weeks off because of Comic-Cons and job responsibilities and families. They are back talking about comic books. And then Mel and Mog are taking a week off. They manage to do shows even when they're on the road at conventions. They've earned a week off to get caught up. So our friend Jeff, Comic Dunes, is filling in 10 to midnight on Thursday. Jeff from Comic Dunes will be here. Then Friday, we have the Original Art Show. at 7, and then at 9, Friday Night Live with Nancy McCann. There is no really weird producers show this weekend, but maybe next weekend. We're going to figure it out. But then Monday, we're back with Talking Shop. Henri will be talking to Jason Strutz, who has a new book out and has a unique take on web comics and crowdfunding. So that'll be interesting to hear them talk. Comic Collectibles will be back with their new vintage show. And Monday night, Big B McFly, the comic guy and Bronze Age nerd. It's at 11 o'clock Eastern. Best Coast Comics will be here on the EXP. When we get those 5 subs, we have a new show dropping. Plus, Chuck will be back soon, and so much other stuff happening here in the experience. If you're not subscribed to our social media, do that. If you're not subscribed to our mailing list, do that. You can do it all over at theexplive.com. All that stuff's there, so just go do that. And then we will see everybody on this show, because I've been trying to talk my way out of this show now for 10 minutes because I've been trying to do a thing. We will see everybody next time here on Do What I Want.
Is that the name of our show now? Do What I Want.
I'm trying to. There's a new feature in StreamYard that like makes my life easy at the end of a show, but it's not working right. So we're gonna do this. We'll see everybody next time. We need to get out of here. Talk to you soon, everybody. Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere the experience is all the time.